In the press release, it said, you're looking forward to being part of a team producing multidimensional solutions and insights to complex challenges facing our society. So what are the various ambitions you have?
Often one sees natural resources and environmental specialists as people who hold back economic development. Perhaps this is a real opportunity now to show both how this science is fundamental to decision making and also what it can offer when we think about the future, because the future does lie in living within within the carrying capacity of our natural resources. My thoughts go to thinking about how we address the issues of mining landscapes, and particularly post-mining landscapes at this stage, because we have a gold mining industry that is in decline, and we have a coal mining industry that is probably going to relocate, and both of those landscapes require some serious thinking. And I've seen something fantastic in Germany which sparked off a lot of thoughts about how we might think about our landscapes, but it requires us putting together a range of initiatives that are already underway in this country, and perhaps thinking about some of the policy frameworks that have an impact on that type of concept.
And just actually, can you explain to us what you saw in Germany and why you were so inspired by it?
I saw a massive mining landscape where the land had literally been transformed by mining. In this case, from a green wooded landscape to one that looked like the Sahara Desert, with great big pools of yellow water in between the dunes. And then there were areas that had been completely transformed. They had been translated into a rolling landscape with water, but also there was a lot of thought given into how that landscape could be productive, so that it didn't just go into care and maintenance. So, for example, there were existing power stations. Could they continue to be used if one used biomass? Could there be linkages between putting renewable energy installations onto the old coal mining sites and pits that would feed energy into the grids that already exist? If the water could be cleaned up, could you create a lake district? And could all of the waste and the heavy metals and the gypsum and so on that was generated in that processing, the cleaning of water, and could those become inputs to other industries? And they do lend themselves to that. It was very clear that there were the pigments, the chemicals industry, the heavy metals, in fact, could be valuable. And we have probably some of the world's most cutting-edge innovations in that area right in our own country. By its nature, it has to be a public-private partnership, simply because there's an enormous element of planning that goes into this, that requires, for example, that we shift from a site-by-site thinking around environmental management to thinking about the region, and then thinking about the development of that region. So it lends itself to an NDP regional planning process, and then looking at what's available in that region. Many of the innovations that I saw in Germany, particularly when it comes to reconstructing that landscape, could absorb people into the types of jobs for which South Africans are currently skilled. But then there's a very high-tech end, which is how you clean that water. Can we reproduce the water cleaning plants at a scale and in the number that we need? There would have to be specific processes, materials processing processes to remove the waste and separate out all the valuable materials. As you know, we already have examples of turning gypsum into bricks and building houses with them. What if we did that on a large scale?
And those examples we see out at eMalahleni, and there they're taking polluted mine water and they're turning it into drinking water. I mean, could this be a model for others to follow?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that eMalahleni initiative is one that could certainly be central to such an initiative. And there are many others which would lend itself, for example, right in the CSIR, there are people who are working on constructed wetlands and very successful ways of reconstructing wetlands and creating wetlands, which are also part of a water purification process. So there are many elements elements that would fit into something, the conception of a post-mining landscape, including design elements. The things that really touched me as a person looking at the German landscape was the extent to which art, vision had been incorporated there. The area that I looked at had these big boards that had the words CSIR written on them, and that was an acronym of some sort, but it both conveyed the fact that they were turning that landscape into a lakeland, the sea, but they were also seeing into the future. It was one way, because it was a multi-decade project, was one way of maintaining a continuity over time. And then there were iconic structures that were either being left or established in the landscape that linked it to its past, its mining past, that both had recreational use as well as had aesthetic features and characteristics. So it was a wonderful way of bringing together scientists, engineers, artists, and ordinary people in envisioning what the future might look like.
Do you think we could do that with our acid mine drainage?
It's a coal mining area. It's an acid mine drainage issue as well. If one looks at Mpumalanga, it's an area that it lends itself to a certain type of natural beauty in and of itself. And if one looks at the areas that have been mined over long periods, one sees what that mining landscape looks like. It's generally a degraded landscape, and there's a real opportunity now to think about what that might look like in the future and what types of activities could be initiated in such a way that we don't essentially have a drain on our economy, but we have another area that's incredibly productive as well as innovative, because no doubt all of these technologies in and of themselves lend themselves to other opportunities, further down the line.
And we have to be reactive in the mined out areas like Mpumalanga. We're going into Waterberg. Could we be proactive in Waterberg?
Oh, absolutely. What I think thinking about mining landscapes mean from a proactive perspective, it really asks us to think about what we might want to conserve, what we might want to transform, what are the dependencies of communities in those areas at present, which ones would enhance their lives, what would enhance their lives, what would make it worse, and then conceptualizing, I think, at a broad scale, how one goes about accessing coal in that area, which keeps its footprint small, preserves what we want to preserve, and also looks at what the long term should look like. So how do we establish installations that have their end state in mind? The coal sector has had Coaltech 2020, the benefits of Coaltech 2020 for a number of years now, and we haven't seen a similar type of institution in the gold mining sector. We've seen the odd major project which at some point has come to an end, like Deep Mine, for example, and maybe one needs to be thinking about, if one were to look at our gold mining areas, how we would put in place a new type of organisation which must obviously include the gold producers on what that landscape looks like in the future. And both in the Free State and in the West Rand and Gauteng, we have an opportunity to do that.